So Anthony, when it comes to sizing Ootbi clusters based on data sets and capacities and retention policies, one of the things that we wanted to cover with our viewers is exactly what to look for, some tips and tricks, and maybe some gotchas to be aware of when it comes to cluster sizing. So in your own words, what was the first thing that comes to mind that everyone needs to be aware of when they're scoping out an Ootbi cluster?
The biggest one for me is in the name. Because Ootbi is immutable out of the box, you really have to be cognizant about the amount of data you are putting in a single Ootbi node. If it's 128 terabytes, if it's 64 terabytes, everything that goes in there is going to stay in there for the entire time period set of the duration of immutability. Which means if you fill it up too quickly with too much data, you will not be able to add more in. So doing math is a little bit important when first scoping out how much Ootbi you should get.
Yeah, no doubt. So you've got the 64 terabyte option, you've got the 128 terabyte option, at least at the time of recording this video. You do have the ability to mix and match those in a single cluster, so you can really get specific with the cumulative cluster size that each customer will need. One of the things that, I really wanted to point out as well is it's important when you're doing discovery to really ask the customers about what type of data they're protecting. A lot of times it could be a lot of surveillance footage. And in the video cases, that really cannot be compressed very much versus something that's very small like database and duplicate data that could really be collapsed down. So I think it's also important to throw out that when we look at data reduction in general, Ootbi does not run compression. It does not have data deduplication. We lean on Veeam to do that. So best practice, a conservative bet, is a 2-to-1 reduction. So if you talk with a customer and they say, look, I'm looking to protect 500 terabytes of source data, it's a safe bet to assume that will take up around 250 terabytes on the actual storage itself. And that assumes that they're backing up everything from A to Z, which a lot of times is not really the case. So Anthony, what else do our viewers need to be cautious of when they look at immutability?
It's also important to consider the entirety of the backup chain. So I think a lot of people will assume, hey, if I have the space to put 100 terabytes in my 128 cluster, then I'm good to go. But we keep the data around for the entirety of the chain. That means from first full to last incremental, that will be preserved for all of the set window of immutability plus 10 days set by Veeam. So really do that math when scoping out how much data you're going to put into your entire backup chain, and consider change and churn over those incrementals as well, because if there is a lot of motion happening in your data, that means a lot more is going to be put in there, and that's just a lot more scope that needs to be protected for that entire window of immutability.
Yeah, completely agree. And really just the last thing to close out on that I would add is just remember, Ootbi is designed to be the initial target for Veeam backups. It is not designed to be the end-all be-all for long-term historical data retention. That's why we highly encourage people to leverage the 3-2-1-1-0 rule and get that data tiered off. Go to another more dense long-term option. And really an ideal solution there is cloud object storage. And you can implement cold tiers for maximum cost savings, or perhaps you have another site. You can tier it off to your offsite location. But the point is, when you're scoping the cluster size, don't think about how much data the customer needs to keep forever. It's just how much data they need for the near-term recovery, the 7-day, the 10-day, the 14-day. Perhaps 30-day maximum in most customers' use cases. So again, thank you very much for watching this quick tips on sizing video. Stay tuned for more. We'll see you soon.